You need facts, figures, scores, and scoops, and the truth.
Welcome to another episode of Behind the Gloves with myself, Grant Johnson, and my fellow partner here, Arendse. We've got quite a interesting topic today that we're going to chat about. We've both had similar experiences in this field, and so we might have to explain a bit as to what the discussion's about and who they are. But in South Africa, we call them the Muthi man or the witch doctor. And it's a big thing in South African football. Well, it used to be back in the day. I'm not so sure anymore, but back in our playing day, it was a huge thing. Andre, I know you had a bit to deal with it in certain teams that you played with.
Yeah, it was a bit of a wake-up call, to be honest. And I wasn't, sort of in my early years of professional football, I wasn't exposed too much to that side of the game. More so when I started getting caught up to the national team. All of a sudden, you'd get introduced to someone whose role was special projects, as they would call it. And you'd go, oh, that sounds pretty cool. What does that mean? And we soon found out what that means. But it's not directly involved in any training sessions or any preparation for the game, for example, on the training field. It's behind the scenes, and I know that's something we're going to get a little bit deeper.
So
into.
maybe I should start off by explaining to people that don't know what a Muthi man is or what a witch doctor is. And in Africa, it's quite a place, quite a big role. And there's talk of it helping you in all sorts of fields in life. Helps you with your wealth, your love life, even the size of your penis. Tried it a few times, never worked.
Hang on a second, I had the wrong Muthi man then.
So it's generally a guy who will come in and, as you say, special projects, and he'll try and use all types of different techniques, basically, to get you the results in a football match, for example. They throw the bones, or they do put you in a bath with different mixes, and so there's different types that they do, but it's pretty much around trying to get you the results in a game.
Oh, stop it! Come on, give us an example. We want to hear right now.
Yeah, so I'll take you back when I started professional, and I started with a team while I was still young. Back in 1991, I played for a team, African Wanderers in Durban, and I was a young Mlungu, with the white boy in the team, not knowing what I was getting into. And I walked into the change room in the first match, and there was a fire in the middle of the change room, and I had no idea. I didn't know whether to get the fire extinguisher or what was happening. And then the players and coaching staff, everybody started jumping over the fire, and I still didn't know what was happening. But apparently the smoke and the fire was to get rid of evil spirits and for the players to energize themselves for the game, and it was supposed to be a good feeling for the game. And I can't remember the results of the game. I don't know. I was so in awe of what was going on around me as the new white boy on the block. But it was an amazing experience. Week in, week out, there'd be something different. You would generally play with a jersey that's been soaked in something, and the jersey was wet. Nothing worse than playing in winter with a wet jersey. But yeah, there were lots of those types of things happening in games. I dealt with it from my personal level as an experience, and I experienced things that a lot of people would not experience, and I appreciated that. So as much as I didn't really believe in it, I embraced it, and I took it as part of the experience.
So here's the thing for me. I will see your fire story, and I'll raise you my own fire story. And I want to take you back to the World Cup in 2002. The highs and the lows for me. I remember it like it was yesterday. We go out onto the field, and we're busy warming up, and we're about to play against Paraguay in the second game of the tournament, of the group stages. And I'm done with my warm up. Now, Joe Masono, love him. He was the coach then. And I walk into the change room. So I'm finished with my warm-up. As we goalkeepers do, we finish our warm-ups before the rest of the team. And off I go. I go back in the change room. And as I open the door, I just see smoke. everywhere. And I see a fire in the corner of the change room. And my first thought was, go and look for the fire extinguisher, and I see it. And I race to it, and I grab it off the wall, and as I'm about to start extinguishing, I get tackled from behind, like a proper tackle. And I go, the change room's burning down. We've got to put the fire out. And my special projects guy says to me, don't worry. This is to help you. Just forget about it. And I could not believe it. I literally sat there going, then I realized what special projects means. It's the other side of helping the team to win. And again, don't ask me what the score was, because I'm not gonna say if it worked or not. That was one of the key aspects of how I sort of was introduced to the Muthi side of the game.
I think in the modern game, there's not so much of that anymore. There might be one or two teams that still have it, and it's part of the culture. Like I said, I don't think any of the big teams do it anymore. One of the teams I played for as well, we played in a big game, and the what would happen is the night before the game, you'd be in the hotel, 11 o'clock at night in bed, falling asleep, and the phone would ring, and you'd answer the hotel phone, not your cell phone. Back then there were no cell phones. You answer the hotel phone, and it's the guy, special projects, saying to you, come to room 305. And so you'd go there, and you walk into the room, and you'd see 2 or 3 players sitting around in their underpants, and you'd like, what is going on here? Anyway, you walk in the room. He tells you to take your clothes off. You take them off because you're part of the team. You had to do it, you know. And there's a big sheet, and there's a big urn, boiling stuff. I don't know what was in there. It didn't smell great, but there was an urn, like a big coffee urn, boiling and steam coming out. And then you had to sit on the floor, and they'd put a big sheet over you, almost became like a sauna. So you were like sweating in there. And then there was the special projects guy, the Muthi man, whatever you want to call him, had put the big sheet over. There would be 4 or 5 players together sitting, and we'd all be looking at each other like, this is weird. And he'd be on the outside with a stick or a rope or whatever, and singing songs. And even the guys, I'd say to them, can you understand what he's saying? And they didn't know what he was saying. And I don't know what he was singing, and it was all sorts of songs. And anyway, when you finished that, took off the sheet, and you were sweating, and then you went into the bathroom, and you had sticks and stuff in the bath, and you had to climb in the bath and then wash yourself in the bath and then go to bed, and you weren't allowed to shower. And I was like, oh, this is a bit weird. The game's the next day. This is like midnight now. So
and of course you got to get your sleep as well. But this is something that I actually want to ask you, because you've also had your experiences as you've been telling us now. Is I want to recount an experience that I had, and I want to follow that with a question. I remember we were playing, I think it was a World Cup qualifier against the Ivory Coast, in the Ivory Coast. And we had our special projects guy with us at the time. And I remember the day before the game, this special project guy had the entire team in one big circle. And he walked around with a bowl of something with a branch in it, and dipped the branch and just flicked it at everybody as he was walking around the circle. And then the next thing, he took out a matchbox, and he lit a match, and he had this these Christmas hats that you wear, that type of material, and he lit it, and he took this thing around everybody as it was burning, and then he asked where the goalkeeper was, and reluctantly, my hand sort of went up like this, not knowing what was about to happen. And he came to me and he said, hold your hands out. And as I held my hands out, he threw the paper into my hands, still burning. And of course, your natural reaction is to just let it go, to drop it.
First thing you dropped, eh?
First thing, well, and can I tell you something? It wasn't the last thing I dropped in that particular game too, because I've always felt that I was very strong-minded against things like that. And was open-minded to it as well. But in that particular game, I could not for the life of me catch a ball. Whether it was a cross, and no one around me, whether it was a cross, hands dropped it. Then at the second attempt, luckily, We drew the game, no score. But I don't know how I got away with keeping that clean sheet. Literally dropped everything into the chest, dropped it. What I wanted to ask you is it a mental thing? Is it something that can actually mess with you mentally? Or is it something that you should be strong enough to overcome?
For me, it didn't mess with me mentally. I think if you're a strong enough character, you put that aside when the game starts. And I always say to young goalkeepers, or even young players, I say to them, when you cross that white line onto the pitch, you got to forget about everything else. Focus on the game. You could be playing in front of 100,000 people in the stadium. You got to forget about that. You got to switch off from that. Focus on the game. Focus on the job at hand. But I had a similar story to that. But the guy called me in the night before as well. He put this cotton thing around my waist with a big ball in the front. I don't know what it was, and it also been dipped and stuff. And he said to me, tomorrow, Johnson, you don't even need to dive. The ball will be deflected by itself. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Oh, what an easy day
That sounds like my type of game. Anyway, we went out. We lost 4-1. Oh. So I went to the guy. Actually, I confronted him after the game because I don't like losing. I don't like conceding goals. And it's not like I didn't go for the ball. I was going for them in the top corners. And anyway, we lost 4-1. And I said to him, look, what happened? I thought you said we wouldn't. And he said to me, Ash Johnson, the ancestors were not happy with us today. And I said to him, you could have told me that before the game. I would have pulled the hamstring in the warm-up.
Brilliant. I got to tell you that we speak about this, and it's a fun sort of element to do the show based on those experiences. And I will tell you that, and I certainly hope my special projects, stroke Muthi men that I've had throughout my career are not going to watch this episode, because I beat the system. I will tell you how I beat the system. There was a time back in the day where our Muthi guy wanted to have our boots before every game, and we knew that he dipped it in something. And eventually what I would do is I'd give one pair of boots and play in another one, because you know what it's like playing in a wet pair of boots as well, when you have to play an important game, etc., that type of thing. But I embraced it because I felt it was the respectful thing to do. But there were also boundaries, and I don't know about you, there were also boundaries for me in terms of respect levels back to me as an individual, for example, working within the group. I also had certain restrictions. I was open to doing any and many things, but the one restriction I had was nobody cuts me, because that was that then became a health issue for me.
So if you say that, I did get cut. So before the game, he would come to me and say to me, you know, that he needs to cut on the inside of my elbows and the inside of my knees. And he had this black paste that he wanted to rub. And I was like, I'm not so keen on that. But eventually I agreed. And I said to him, I want to see you take a brand new razor blade out of the packet, which he did. And then he just pinched your skin together and nick it and put a bit of black paste on. And he did it the inside of my elbows and inside of my knees. I kept a clean sheet that game. Did it work? I don't know. But those type of things I went along with. What I wouldn't allow is to take something in my mouth. In other words, to drink or eat something, because that I saw as could affect my stomach or could make me not play or vomit or who knows what. So I just wouldn't take anything orally. But the rest of it I was okay with. And I loved every moment. I wouldn't change it for anything.
For me, it certainly was part of the journey, which I felt needed to be embraced, and you had to also fit into certain cultures as well. Here's the thing for me, and I think today in the modern game we still see it from time to time. What is the thing with spraying water in the goals? Players walking around before the game and just, well, I'm assuming it's water, just spraying.
I think players see too much stuff on TV and they replicate it. So there's certain things they do when they walk into a pitch, for example, like bowing down, or I don't know, stepping on with the right foot first. But there's certain things that I understand superstitions, and I was a little bit superstitious. If I played a good game, I'd want to wear the same kit next week, or the same socks, or keep it as close. Even today, as a coach, if I've done well, the team's done well, I want to try and keep the same.
And perhaps that's a form of your own Muthi.
Correct.
The way you want
That's
to.
exactly, that's where I was going with it, is that maybe that side of it is a mental thing, as much as it's superstition and the Muthi man might be closer than what we think. I don't know. But yeah, I think a lot of the players spraying water, and a lot of it's too much for me is done for the cameras these days. Players will see that on TV, and they do, I don't know, all these signs and whatever they're doing, and I think it's just too much show for the TV, actually.
Yeah. For me as well, I think and all of us are like that. I think if you ask any single footballer, they would have a specific routine, whether they call it Muthi or whatever they do. It's a routine, for example, that they are familiar with, that they do every single game. And I'll tell you this, I used to have a coach that you always used to say to me before we go out onto a pitch inspection, or the coach always used to say, when you walk out there before the game, go and walk to the area that you're familiar with, that you're going to play your role in for the team. And I always went and sat on the bench.
I think the game's changed a lot over the years. Some for the better, some not for the better. I think we had maybe better experiences. I think we were passionate about the game. I'm not saying the players today aren't, but the game's changed a lot for me. It's become very technical, very tactical, everything just seems to be regimental, if I can put it that way. Where back in the day we had a lot more freedom to do all sorts of things, like the Muthi man.
Well, I think we've spoken at length about our experiences and the fact that the Muthi man, as we call it, played a massive role in the team's performances, in the mindset, for example. Personally, for me, it started to take a back seat in the game. And I'm going to put it out there. I think we need a bigger element of the Muthi man in modern football.
Jeez, Andre, that's a big statement. I'm not so sure about that. I've had some dodgy experiences, and I'm not sure I'd put the players through that again. But I think it's an interesting topic, and I think as an African, bred African, I think it's an amazing that we actually went through it and experienced all these things.
Omnisport Africa.